Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Have a good night. We are learning Mishna Yevamos, Parak Yudalad, chapter 14. We are in the middle of Mishna Dalad. And we begin where it says, Shnei Achim. You have two brothers. Echad Chayresh V'echad Pikeach. One is a deaf mute and one is regular. One is not a deaf mute. Nesuyim L'shtei Achoyes. And they are married to two sisters. Achas Chareshes V'achas Pikachas. One of them is a deaf mute and one of them is not. All right, so you got two brothers. Each one of them is a deaf mute, one is not. You got two sisters. One is deaf mute, one's not. Okay, so the Mishnah sets out the case, and the Mishnah we'll see from what we're going to read on that the case here is that the deaf mute is married to the deaf mute and the not deaf mute is married to the not deaf mute. So now the case is like this. Meis Cheresh Baal Chareshes. Let's say the deaf mute who is married to the deaf mute woman. He dies without children. She falls to Yibam to the other brother. The other brother is the one married who is not a deaf mute. Married to a woman is not a deaf mute. What shall the brother who is not a deaf mute, who is married to not deaf mute women, what shall he now do when it comes to the issue of Yibam here? The answer is, she will go free as his wife's sister. At the end of the day, this is the sister of his wife. He is married to her he was married to her, midrabanan. She now falls to his brother, but his brother is actually married according to the Torah law to her sister, and therefore she goes free. That's the first half. What if what if the story is that the not deaf mute brother who is married to the not deaf mute woman, what happens there when he dies? Now she falls to the deaf mute brother married to the deaf mute woman. What shall the deaf mute brother who is married to the deaf mute woman, what is he going to do now that he has this woman falling to him for Yibam? Now this woman who falls to him for Yibam was married to his brother according to Torah law. His wife was only married according to rabbinic law. So midarabban, according to rabbinic law, she is his wife's sister, but according to Torah law, wasn't his wife. It's not his wife. And the only one the only thing that Torah now sees is really this woman who now fell to him for Yibam. So therefore, what does he do now? Maitzi ishtoi beget. He has to give his wife a divorce. And he has to give his wife a divorce because he can't stay married to her. Why? Because she is the sister of the woman who is connected to him for Yibam, as we just explained before. This woman who falls to him for Yibam, that's a Torah law. And therefore, the fact that his wife is her sister isn't going to knock her off. Okay, so therefore, being that the Zika, the Yibam bond is still there, this woman, his wife, is a sister of the woman who's connected to him for Yibam. And there the halacha is that therefore he can't stay married to her. He's got to give her a divorce. Ve'eshes achiv asura la'olam. The wife of his brother is going to be forever forbidden. She'll never be able to marry anyone. She can't get married to anyone because, number one, she cannot marry this deaf mute brother because of the fact that midrabanan contra rabbinic law, this is his sister's wife. He can't do chalitza because, as we said before, a chayiv, a deaf mute, cannot perform a chalitza, and therefore this woman is forbidden forever to marry someone until if this person dies, if this deaf mute person dies, it's a different story. But as long as he's alive, she is going to be forbidden to marry anyone. Next case, Shnei Achim. You have two brothers, Echad Cheresh ve'Echad Pikeach. One is deaf mute, one is not. They're married to two women. We call them nachriyas, strangers. They're related to each other. Until now, we're discussing two sisters. Now we're not talking about sisters. We're talking about two women. And it happens to be that these two brothers, one's a deaf mute, one is not. They're married to two women, each one's wife is a pikach. She's not a deaf mute. Okay, now the fact that the brother though is a deaf mute means that his marriage is midrabanan, is going contra rabbinic law. So now we go through the scenarios. Meis Cheresh Bal Pikachas. If the deaf brother who was married to the not deaf woman, deaf mute rather, dies, what now will the brother who was not a deaf mute, married to the not deaf mute woman, What is he going to do now with this woman who falls to him for Yibam? Very simple. He could do a chalitza or he could do Yibam. In this case, the woman who fell to Yibam, she may have been married to a deaf mute man, but she's not a deaf mute. So now, midrabanan, according to rabbinic law, she falls for Yibam, and if she falls for midrabanan, it's his choice what he wants to do now. He's not a deaf mute, she's not a deaf mute. Chalitza could be done if they want. So therefore, the Mishnah says, in this case, he's got a choice. He could do a chalitza or he could do Yibam. Next case, meis pikach bal pikachas. But let's say the one who died, the brother who died, was the not deaf mute brother who was married to not deaf mute woman, and now this woman is falling to the other brother. Ma yaseh cheresh bal pikachas. What does the deaf mute brother married to the not deaf mute woman? What does he now do? The answer is kindness. He can take her for Yibam. He can take her for Yibam because, being that we're talking about Yibam here, and Yibam doesn't need any kind of consent, as long as he goes ahead and he does the act of Yibam, so now she's now married to him. So kindness, he takes her in. That means he does the act of Yibam to her, and that act of Yibam to her is a Yibam on a Torah level, as we just said. Now, if it's a Torah level, though, he can't ever divorce her, because if he's a deaf mute, he can't perform gerushin, he can't divorce. Torah law divorce needs a full-fledged consent of the husband. He cannot do that because he's a deaf mute, and he's mentally affected because of that. We say he's not able to have that full intent to consent to the divorce. All right, for Yibam, for the marriage of Yibam, you don't need that level of consent, and therefore, if he does the act of Yibam, she becomes his wife. But he's not going to be able to divorce her because, as a deaf mute, he cannot perform a divorce. Next case, Shnei Achim Pikchim Nesum L'Shnei Nachrias. Two brothers. Both of them are not deaf mute. They're married to two women who are not related to each other. Achas Pikachas V'achas Chareshes. One of them is not a deaf mute. One of them is. And again, we're assuming that so Meis Pikeach Bal Chareshes. If, let's say, the brother who was married to the deaf mute woman, if he dies, what shall the other brother who is not deaf mute, married to a not deaf woman, what is he going to do? The answer is kindness. He's going to go ahead and he's going to marry her. Now, she is the one who is a deaf mute. She is the one who doesn't have the ability to consent. But we're talking about Yibam. You don't need her consent, and therefore, since you don't need her consent for Yibam, kindness. He can do Yibam. He can't do chalitza because she's a deaf mute. She can't perform a chalitza. Now, so he goes ahead and he takes her in. Now, if after he marries her, he doesn't want to stay married to her, he can give her a get. Now, you'll say, how can he give her a get? Isn't she a deaf mute? But as we said before, you can even have cases where a deaf mute woman is even married according to Torah law to a man. But at the end of the day, since we don't need her consent for the divorce, as long as she has enough understanding that she has to watch her divorce, her get, she has to watch her bill of divorce, then she can accept the get, and she's divorced. So that's what it means. If he wants to divorce her, he could. All right, next case. Let's say the brother who died was the brother who was not the deaf mute, and who was married to not deaf mute women, which means the woman falling out to Yibam is coming from a Torah marriage, and therefore there is a Torah Zika, a Torah Yibam bond. What does the brother who is a Pikeach, he is not a deaf mute, married to a deaf mute woman, what does he do when this woman falls to him for Yibam? The answer is very simple. He can do chalitza or Yibam. Why not? He is not a deaf mute. She is not a deaf mute. She fell to him for Yibam. Now he can do whatever he wants. He can do chalitza, he can do Yibam. Being that both of them are not deaf mutes, chalitza can be performed. Next case. Shnei Achim, two brothers. One brother is a deaf mute, one is not. Married to two women who are not related. Achas chareshes v'achas pikachas. One of those women is a deaf mute, one of them isn't. So again, we've got the brother who is a deaf mute married to the deaf mute woman. That's the way the Mishna is laying out the case. We have the brother who is a pikeach, who is not a deaf mute, married to the woman who was not a deaf mute, and therefore the Mishna says, Meis cheresh bal chareshes. If, let's say, the deaf mute who was the husband of the deaf mute woman, he died without children. So now his wife falls to Yibam to the brother, the pikeach, the brother who is not a deaf mute, and she falls to him to Yibam midrabanan. The marriage was midrabanan, so according to rabbinic law, there is a Yibam. what shall the brother who is not a deaf mute, married to not the woman, what shall he do? The answer is kindness. He takes her in. He can do yibam on her. At the end of the day, this is his brother's wife. She may be a cherish. She may be a chareshes, but the Rabbana there is yibam, and therefore we say kindness. He can go ahead and he can perform yibam. He can marry her. He's not going to be able to do chalitza because she is a chareshes. She is a deaf mute woman, so she cannot perform a chalitza. But kindness, the yibam you could do. You don't need consent for the yibam, and therefore, if he does the active yibam on her, he is going to be married to her according to Torah law. At the same time, if he doesn't want to stay married to her and he wants to free her to marry somebody else, he can give her a bill of divorce. Because as we said before, this chareshes, first of all, she was only married to the brother anyway, midrabanan according to rabbinic law, and therefore to go ahead and give her a divorce for that rabbinic marriage, there's no problem. Because there's no problem. It's even easier than some of the other cases because of the fact that the whole marriage, to begin with, was only rabbinic. The whole yibum is only rabbinic, and therefore, to go ahead and give her a get is not a problem. If let's say the one who died was the brother who was not a deaf mute, who was married to not deaf mute woman, a lot of times when we keep adding here the fact who these married, it's just for identification purposes, not for purposes of, and not especially when they're not sisters. There's no ramification about who he's married to, but the point is just identification to know which brother we're talking about. Meis pikach bal pikach. So let's say it was the pikach, the brother who was not a deaf mute, married to a non-deaf mute woman, which means they had a Torah obligation, Torah marriage, and therefore when he dies without children, there is a Torah connection to the brother who is a deaf mute. What shall the deaf mute brother, who happens to be married to a deaf mute woman, what is he now going to do with this rabbinic, with this yibum that comes to him? And it's not even a rabbinic yibum; it's a Torah yibum that now he has a connection to him because the brother was married to this woman according to Torah law. So what does he do? The answer is kindness. He can do yibum. That he can do. But he's not going to be able ever to divorce her. He can't do chalitza even before he does yibam because since she's a deaf mute, she can't participate in chalitza. Yibam can be done to her because of the fact that you don't need her consent. But now to be able to give her a get, that's going to be a problem because to have a get, because in order, not her. The woman who was not a deaf mute, she's the one who fell to yibam. But since he's a deaf mute, so he cannot perform chalitza before the yibam. He could do the yibam because you don't need his full mental capacity for yibam. You don't need that. You don't need any. It's just the act itself is going to create the marriage. At the end of the day, he is not going to be able to divorce her because as a deaf mute, he does not have the ability to consent to a divorce, which you need for a man to be able to give a divorce to his wife. Okay. Hold on.
Oh,
now, we're saying that a person, even under pressure, if somebody says, what did so-and-so say about me? What did so-and-so do about me? You cannot respond. You're not allowed to. So what do you do? How do you respond to that person who asks you, what did that person say about me? Totally bazeh. Says the Chofetz Chaim, it depends on this. If he has a way of getting out of it without having to lie, meaning without having to say what the person said, not having to lie. Then answer that way without having to say something that's not true. But if let's say he understands that his friend will not accept this answer that he's giving, you could actually say an outright falsehood. What did somebody say about me? I have no idea. I don't know. Whatever, you can answer him even though it's not even true. You do know, but if that's what it takes not to have to say rechilas, you're allowed to do that. But one thing you can't do is swear falsely. If he says, I'm going to make you swear, and you say, yes, I would swear, and he would swear, that means he's swearing falsely, that you can't do. Just to go in and say what's not true, that would be okay, but to swear to it, that would be absolutely forbidden. Have a wonderful day, and a good night, and a good yontif.
there was an article in the paper